It begins, as most catastrophic miscalculations do, with a flawed assumption about scale. Every known intelligent species that has ever reached beyond its own atmosphere has followed the same predictive model. Survival depends on dominance over your environment. Apex organisms, those at the top of their ecological hierarchies, are selected, studied, and, when necessary, transported as representatives of a world's biological capability. Not symbols, not companions, but systems, mobile solutions to predation, territory control, and adaptive resilience. When interspecies contact protocols were formalized, it was expected almost universally that each civilization would present its most optimized predator, something that could endure, adapt, and, if required, assert control. And then humans arrived carrying a Housecat.A. First glance, the error seemed almost embarrassing. The creature was small, averaging under 5 kilograms, with no visible armor, no venom, no pack coordination, and no specialized appendages for environmental manipulation. Its metabolic output was modest, its muscle density unremarkable, and its threat profile barely registered above nuisance level. Observers classified it as a companion organism, likely included for psychological comfort rather than ecological demonstration. That alone raised concerns, because no species that had survived long enough to achieve interstellar communication should require emotional support during first contact. It suggested instability, perhaps even fragility. But the deeper failure was not in the assessment of the animal's physical capabilities. It was in the assumption that dominance must always be visible. On Earth, survival is not dictated solely by size or strength. It is governed by efficiency under constraint. Energy conservation, behavioral flexibility, and sensory precision often outperform brute force. The Housecat is not an apex predator in the traditional sense. It does not dominate ecosystems through raw power. Instead, it operates as a distributed micro-predator, optimized for infiltration, persistence, and rapid adaptation across environments ranging from dense urban structures to arid deserts. Its evolutionary lineage traces back to solitary hunters that survived not by overpowering prey, but by mastering probability, reducing uncertainty in every movement, every decision, and every engagement. This is where the misunderstanding begins to collapse. The first anomaly occurred during a controlled environmental trial. The chamber was calibrated to mimic a neutral biosphere with moderate gravity, balanced atmospheric composition, controlled temperature gradients, and a contained population of synthetic prey analogs designed to test hunting behavior. Larger predators asserted territory immediately, expending significant energy to establish dominance. Pack-based organisms attempted coordination and failed under unfamiliar conditions. Others hesitated, overwhelmed by sensory input outside their evolutionary context. The Housecat did nothing. For nearly 6 hours it remained motionless, not inactive, but motionless. Its respiration slowed, its posture relaxed, yet its sensory systems remained fully engaged. Micro-adjustments in ear orientation tracked airborne vibrations, its pupils responded to minute changes in light, and its whiskers mapped airflow and spatial boundaries with sub-millimeter precision. To an untrained observer, it appeared passive. In reality, it was collecting data. When it finally moved, the shift was almost imperceptible. The first prey analog was neutralized in seconds, not through chase, but through prediction. The cat intercepted the target's future position, not its present one, and disengaged immediately after contact. Within minutes, the entire prey population was eliminated. What unsettled observers was not the speed, but the method. The cat did not hunt randomly. It mapped patterns, exploited them, and reduced system complexity step by step. It wasn't hunting, it was solving. The second phase introduced environmental stressors. Temperature fluctuations, reduced oxygen, variable terrain, and sensory interference. Larger organisms began to degrade under compounded stress, their metabolic demands rising, coordination failing, and error rates increasing. The housecat adapted without visible strain. It regulated temperature behaviorally, sought microclimates, reduced unnecessary movement to conserve oxygen, and shifted reliance between sensory systems when interference occurred. This revealed a critical survival principle: redundancy. Systems that depend on a single dominant capability fail when that capability is compromised. The housecat distributes function across multiple channels, ensuring continuity under disruption. Its performance remained not maximal, but optimal, never exceeding what was necessary, never wasting energy. The third phase introduced direct threats in the form of synthetic predators. The expectation was evasion, followed by eventual failure. Instead, the cat altered the engagement entirely. It did not confront the threat, it became undetectable within the system. It synchronized movement with environmental noise, exploited blind spots, and used structural edges to mask its presence. The predators, unable to maintain consistent tracking, began to fail not from attack but from inefficiency. They expended energy chasing a target they could not reliably perceive. Only when their systems degraded did the cat engage, targeting structural weaknesses with precise, minimal effort. One by one, the threats were neutralized. The chamber fell silent. At this point, the observers shifted focus beyond the organism itself. No species evolves in isolation. The housecat exists in a hybrid state, neither fully domesticated nor fully wild. It operates within human environments while retaining independent hunting behavior. This duality is the result of thousands of years of cohabitation where survival depended on compatibility rather than control. Humans provided shelter and stability, while cats contributed distributed regulation of smaller organisms that could destabilize food systems. This created a decentralized survival network with no central command and no single point of failure. Further simulations confirmed this. When introduced into a human-like environment with rapidly reproducing, destabilizing organisms, the system initially degraded. Then the cat began selective intervention, targeting high-impact nodes within the population rather than attempting total elimination. Growth curves flattened and environmental stability returned. This demonstrated a higher-order survival function: regulation. Effective survival does not require removing all threats, only preventing them from scaling beyond control. The final phase escalated into full systemic collapse conditions. Resource scarcity, structural failure, and competing organisms pushed the environment toward breakdown. Most systems fail under such stress. This one did not. Humans adapted by restructuring resource flow and modifying environmental constraints, while the cat adjusted its behavior in parallel, maintaining pressure on destabilizing elements. There was no direct coordination, yet the outcome was synchronized. The system did not remain perfect, but it remained functional. The conclusion was unavoidable. Humans had not brought their strongest organism. They had brought a demonstration of their method. The housecat was not a symbol of weakness, but a representation of how humans approach survival, through integration, efficiency, and indirect control. True dominance was not displayed through force, but through the ability to design systems where force becomes unnecessary. The observers realized they had not been evaluating a creature, but a principle. The next time they encountered a new species, they would not ask about strength, they would ask about systems, because what a species chooses to rely on reveals how it survives under pressure. And survival is not determined by what is most visible, but by what continues to function when everything else begins to fail. The moral is simple but often ignored. Real power is not about being the strongest in the environment, but about understanding the environment so deeply that you never need to be.